Hey, and we are live on this Monday afternoon or morning with Summer McAfee. Thanks for joining us, Summer.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited for this one. So you are a program manager for USAA Design Studio. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is my role.
So I guess let's start off. I think everybody knows what USAA is. At least everybody in my network, and almost everybody I know from San Antonio wants to work at USAA. So I think we're good there. What does the USAA Design Studio do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the design studio, the way I like to explain it is think of us as like we're like almost like a making things better hub for USAA. So any product or service that you currently use, whether it's the app or whether you have car insurance, auto insurance, you have your checking account with us, the designers are working on making it easier, faster, and better for you to actually access your products or services with us. So that's the main thing that they work on. And while we do have a design studio here in Austin, we also have USA designers that work out of San Antonio and also out of Dallas. And then we did have a handful of designers that were permanently at home pre-COVID-19 as well.
So, and I think I got this backwards. And so when you say design, it's not like interior design. It's product.
Centered design, right? So it's human-centered design, products and services that we have today or things that they may be even looking at developing for the future, and really thinking about you as the members, like how do we make it better, easier, more efficient for you to access the products and services or to do business with us. And so that's what they're really working on.
Wow. Okay, that's exciting because I, as a USA member myself, I know I've had to like file a claim or whatever, and it was super easy. I mean, it was like literally like do it all online, and then somebody calls you and follows up. So
love to hear that. Love to hear that your claim process worked really smoothly and that you were able to use the tools that are out there. So that's good news. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. Okay, so I think you've had a fairly, I don't know if it's unique or not, but an interesting path to where you are today. How did you get to USA? How did you get to be a program manager at USA? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my journey at USAA, I went to high school in San Antonio. My dad's retired Air Force. So growing up in San Antonio for a good part of my high school career and part of middle school, I knew a little bit about USAA. And so they were doing a program with Junior Achievement to be a summer intern. And so I was selected to be a summer intern with USAA, worked in human resources, was really doing basic things. Like I was basically like a data clerk in HR. So like filing, doing, faxes were still done back then, some really basic 101 stuff. And then at the end of my internship, I was really hoping to stay on with USAA as I was going to college at UTSA right there in San Antonio. And so they told me about the call center positions and encouraged me to apply for the call center. So I applied and got hired. And so my first role at USA was in the auto car insurance team. And so I was taking calls for the state of Oklahoma. Back then our calls were segmented. So I was doing Oklahoma to start and really just helping our members with, getting an ID card, adding their son, taking their payments, explaining rate increases. So I was doing that and then just continued to move up in the insurance side, learned other skills. Later, about 7 years in, I became a call center manager. And so then I was leading a team that was doing the call center work, again, auto insurance, home insurance, renter's insurance, things like that. And then I got an opportunity to go on a professional rotation. And that's one thing I always encourage anybody that comes to mentor with me is take those opportunities that come your way, even if you don't really know the pathway, right? So this professional rotation was new. We had never done it before. I had never done anything in this area. And so it gave me an opportunity to spend about a year in the innovation department. So USAA was standing up an innovation department that year, and I went on rotation. And that was my first opportunity to really start working more on the project side of the house, a little more of the programming side of the house. And then later I became a bank manager with USAA and moved over to our financial center. So when we had more walk-in locations for members to come in for servicing, I was a branch manager outside of Fort Campbell for a year. And then I did Pentagon Row in Arlington, Virginia for 3 years. So that led me to the opportunity to where I am today. So I would say it's just been really just about taking different opportunities, putting yourself out there, and then being open to trying something new. I always encourage people, like, if you've been doing the same role for say 3 to 4 years, ask yourself, like, what would I want to be doing next? And are you letting people in your network know this is my next, right? You've got to let a few people know, because if you keep it to yourself, they're not going to be able to advocate or help share with other people that you're interested in that next role or that next opportunity.
So I got a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The innovation year, was there any risk in taking that program or going into that program?
So there was definitely some risk. I mean, part of it was the fact that we had never done it before, right? So it wasn't like an established professional rotation where I could go ask somebody else who had been over there, like, what was your experience? What did you gain? Did it help you in your future? Do you feel it was a good career move? So there was a little bit of risk of like the unknown piece of it. But at the same time, I remember right before I went ahead and accepted the position, I went and talked to my assistant vice president at that time. And I asked her, she's someone I really trusted. She was an advocate of mine. And I just asked her, like, what do you think about me taking this opportunity? You know, just kind of straight shooter. Just tell me, what do you think? You're from your heart, like not the corporate scripted answer. Just tell me from your heart, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Because I need to decide if I'm going to take the professional rotation or not. And she was just really clear with me and said, Summer, you've already established yourself in the call center as a manager. You've done a great job. She said, if you go over to innovation and it doesn't work out, you can always come back home here. You know, and so it wasn't nothing like a permanent guaranteed thing I could come back. But she just said, you know, I had the reputation. I needed to, you know, trust my instincts and just take the opportunity and know that if I needed to come back to the insurance side of the house, that I definitely could do well with coming back over there in a leadership role. And so that encouraged me to just go and take the risk. I knew I wasn't going to know the whole process going in, but I thought this would give me the opportunity, and it sure did. It gave me the opportunity to do different projects, do different programs, see other sides of USAA, get in front of different leaders. So it was just a great opportunity. And I definitely encourage anybody, if you have an opportunity to go on a professional rotation, take yourself on that professional rotation. It could be the game changer for your career.
And I think that's what I wanted to hear, by the way. I appreciate the honesty on that. And how much did the professional rotation lead to the bank manager job?
Yeah, so for me, that it actually was a really good correlation. So at that point, I had done different things inside of the innovation department, like revising our rewards program. I had implemented some ideas, so I had some projects under my belt. And so when the opportunity came up that we were going to open a USAA financial center outside of Fort Campbell, I fared really well, even though I didn't have banking experience. So that's the other thing I'll say is, like, you could go to professional rotation, and the skills that you gain, while it may not be the exact skills for the next job you're going to, they're transferable, right? So I was able to talk through about like how I was able to partner with compliance and how I was able to partner with different areas. And while yes, I don't know the banking side of the house, I could quickly learn. You know, I was like, I can build relationships, I can learn. I mean, I understand compliance is numero uno, and so I wasn't gonna, you know, not learn it and not be good at it. And so I think that really helped me get the opportunity to go lead the Fort Campbell branch.
And I'm guessing relationships played a role there as well, because you have a reputation for being such a high performer that, you know, once someone talks to you, they realize, oh my God, this is talent. This person is the kind of leader we want. Let's give them the opportunity.
Yeah, I always like to tell people, you always hear that quote, like, don't burn any of your bridges. Well, I'm going to say at USAA and maybe in corporate America in general, it's not just don't burn any of your bridges. It's like water some of your bridges, right? Like water some of the bridges that you're no longer on, right? Like, I know you may not be directly in that area, or that may not be a bridge you cross every day in your new role. But the interesting thing is, when I went for my interview, on the panel was someone I used to work with. And so I think one of the things that really helped me was the fact that she knew my work. She knew who I was. She knew that I was a leader that could go out and be, you know, away from kind of the headquarters. If you think about it, being a branch manager in a location where we don't have other branches, it's a really unique opportunity, because you're now the leader and you have like 10 people reporting to you, but you're also the only person in leadership physically at that location. And so I'm also an introvert at heart. So part of it was also like, hey, I'm okay with the fact that I won't have any other leader buddies like in my direct city. I can pick up the phone and call them. And so part of it was conveying to them like, hey, I'm going to be okay that I won't be at headquarters. Like I've got enough relationships across USAA. I can send someone a message. I can send someone an email. I will still feel connected. Like I won't feel like I'm out here on an island. And so I think being able to convey that as well was very helpful, that they felt confident, like, okay, I think she could do the job and I think she could lead a branch, even though there's no other USA branches in this city or state at the time.
Wow. And I could see, first of all, by talking with you, I can see that. So, but I also love the analogy about watering the bridge. And I'm going to do I just made a note to do a post this week about something. Like, you gave me a good reminder, because I have opportunities come to me from people that maybe I spoke with, helped, or worked with a year, 2 years, or whatever. And you just kind of run into each other, or there's an opportunity and they're like, hey, Mike, this came up, we thought of you. And I can see you're right. As long as you continue to build those relationships and, like you said, water the bridges, it can lead to something that you didn't expect. So
right. And also people know your story too, right? So like if I haven't worked with you, say in like 2 years, you might just remember, I remember Summer was great. I don't know what she's done recently, right? So you're not someone that's in my direct, what we call COSAs at USAA, but you're not in my direct area. And so we don't really go to town halls together anymore. We're not really at any of the executive, different things that are hosted where the whole teams are getting together. Of course, right now it's all virtual over Zoom, but we wouldn't know each other. And so me being able to just occasionally drop you a note, even just to check on how you're doing. Last week in Texas was a very devastating week with the weather. And so even just dropping somebody that's kind of in your network, but you don't talk to all the time, a quick, hey, I'm thinking about you and your family. I hope you're doing better. Also, by the way, I want to let you know, I just was assigned an XYZ project. I'm looking forward to the challenge. I mean, it's not even really about promoting myself in that email, but it's dropping that nugget like, hey, I'm working on this thing and I want you to know that, because who knows, down the road there may be an opportunity there. Yeah,
no, I agree. And I will share, that's what I try to tell people to do on LinkedIn as well. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to go point to point all the time. Sometimes it's just, if you share those big life changes, those new challenges, or you just go out to your network, hey, I'm thinking about everybody here out there in Texas, whatever, you can touch so many people. And if you're staying engaged, it almost feels the same way. Nothing will ever take the place of a personal engagement, but it can help. So
I want to share one of my favorite questions to ask people, and especially for my introverts that might be out there, or ambiverts that you're like, I don't know, I don't really like all that small talk. This is a question I always ask that I feel is a really good one, is what's recently sparked some joy for you? So what I do is when I'm trying to connect with somebody or just kind of reconnect with them, is I'll tell them something that sparked joy for me. And sometimes it's something professionally and something personally. And then I close my email out or quick touch point with them with what's recently sparked joy for you. And so that's just a nice way to connect with them. And usually it's just a short thing. It's not a long conversation, but you, again, have that human touch together, and it doesn't feel like it's been so long since they've heard from you, or even you've checked in with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. The other thing that's really interesting to me since I've started doing these is, once we discuss someone's path to where they are, it seems so clear. Like, it makes so much sense now when I think about it. Intern, call center manager. Then you went on this innovation kind of like fellowship. And then you took over, ran 2 bank branches.
Yes.
And so now you're doing the design, program manager for this design centered stuff, which is all the stuff that you've touched, that you've led, coupled with the innovation program you did. Like, to me right now, it makes total sense why you are where you are. Does that?
I would say, yeah, it definitely does. The one thing I will share that also helped me be in the seat that I'm in today is I'm not a designer by trade. And so when you think about success in my role, what I always tell people, and the quickest synopsis of how would I define success in my role, is me doing my job so the designers can design, right? So I'm really there. I'm part of the design operations staff support. And so really I'm helping with some of the behind the scenes stuff and making sure other things are taken care of so that they can focus on actually designing, right? So I never want them to have to worry about, we're having an event, who's the caterer, who's the this, who's handling security, are all the guests registered, or do we have any VIPs coming to this event? All of that's more on my plate. And so I define success as the designers can come to that event, they know who the VIPs are, we've got everything taken care of, food's on time, everything, all the logistics are done. That's how you define success in my role. And so really part of it's being able to translate your skills. And so one of the reasons I really feel I'm sitting in the seat today, well, it's two reasons. One is one of my prior employees was actually in this department temporarily. So again, back to relationships, she was temporarily assisting our vice president as her executive assistant. And when the job posting came up, she sent it out to her network. And at the time I was like, okay, that seems interesting. Well, then within that same week, my position was eliminated. So then I was like, oh, wait, it goes from just seeming interesting to let me reread this email. What's this thing that they're doing in Austin? And what is this job? And let me look at it a little closer. And so she was really an advocate for me when I applied for the role. And then the second thing would be being able to transfer my skills. Again, I had not been a program manager before. I had not led at a campus level with logistics and operations and things of that and planning events to that degree, but I had done some facility management in my prior roles. As a branch manager, you're dealing with facilities, you're dealing with military affairs, you're out in the community. I'd done community outreach. Part of it was letting them know that I could really do it and sharing with them, here's the successes I've had, and I know they transfer to this role. And so that's really the key thing is you got to be able to tell other people your story and help them see, don't leave it up to them to figure out, oh, well, what did Summer do before? You got to know your stories really well. And you got to be able to go into that interview and nail it, right? I was able to tell them, hey, when the car crashed into Fort Campbell's Financial Center, that was me. And they're like, oh, that was you, Summer? You were there when the car crashed into the building? And it's being able to walk someone through in an interview, this is what I did, this is how we handled it. And no, cars crashing into a bank branch is not part of your training. Nobody trained me on, here's what you need to do, Summer, if the car runs into the bank one day. But I think those are the stories that if you know your story and you can show this is relevant to what you're looking for in your new program manager, it really helps.
And I think if you can show how you were able to professionally handle and manage a car crashing into your bank, then you're going to be able to handle the normal day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, the pipe busted in the bathroom is I got it. The pipe's busted in the bathroom, we're okay. We have no clean drinking water in the city. We're partnering with corporate services. We're getting clean, we're getting bottled water for the employees. And so things like that, I just feel you just have to really be able to show hey, I'm that forward thinking person. The minute I wake up in the morning and there's something on the news and I'm like, oh my gosh, the entire city's out of water. Okay, so let's, I already am thinking of what needs to happen for our campus. What do we need to do so that we can ensure that employees have it? And again, that's pre-coronavirus. Right now we're all working from home, but we did have a water situation about 2 years ago where the water wasn't drinkable in Austin for a short period of time, and just trying to make sure the employees had what they needed coming into work.
I think it's fantastic. So let's talk about your job itself. You kind of explained it. In some ways, it sounds like a program management office type role where you're doing all the support stuff and the integration. Is that kind of correct for the people?
Yeah. Right. So what I would say about my role specifically is it's not like a traditional program manager in the sense that my role is almost like a hybrid. So if I was to give you a couple of other roles to think about that are part of my hat and my day job, it's an event planner. It's a little bit of office management. So some aspects of it seem like an office manager. Also, you're doing some culture things. So you're also part of the culture engagement, diversity and inclusion events, those kind of things are you. You're also business continuation, life safety, the liaison for emergency management. So that's you. Facility management's you. So that's kind of the three big hats I wear, really. If I was to put my job into three little compartments, I'd say it's event planning, it's facility management, life safety of the campus, and then you're doing a little bit more of what I call office management, security, liaison with the property manager, things of that nature, because we're also in a leased building here in Austin as well. So we don't own the property we're in. And so you're also the liaison between the USAA campus here and the property management company for our location.
So what is your day like? Right now it sounds like a dumpster fire that you're just taking care of everything. Is that true? Is it all meetings? Is it
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what I would tell you, that one of the things I love about my role is it was never the same. So it was never the same every day. Like it was different. You know, I mean, it's hard to tell somebody like if they come a job shadow with me on one Friday and they come job shadow with me the next Friday, we could be working on two totally different things. So that's what I would say is there is a lot more meetings now that I'm virtual. So I will say there's more meetings now that I'm in a virtual environment. But really day to day for my role, a lot of it is I would say you have to have that like ebb and flow personality, right? So one minute we might be welcoming, somebody, one of the, officials from, the military base may be coming by to visit us. Unexpectedly, the CEO may be in downtown Austin and wants to just swing by and say hello. I mean, so there's a lot of like what I'd say not always pre-planned, right? And sometimes it's like you're literally sitting at your desk and they're like, "Hey, the CEO's in the lobby," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, give me a second, I'll be down." Like it's literally like you got like 4 seconds notice. And part of my role, I feel, is to always know, what did we show him last time? What did we talk about? What are the different things that we're working on now? So him or a board member that might be in the area, we don't show them the same things we just showed them the last time they visited. And so I feel part of that is just always being ready. I mean, you just never know. Like you always being ready. We also have a human-centered design team that does a lot of our workshops and training. And so also being ready for those weeks where we used to have in-person workshops and you're expecting like 30 to 40 visiting employees from other campuses. And so also having a little bit of empathy, I would say, for them too, right? I'm used to working in the Austin building. I know how it works. I know the ins and outs and flows, but if you're a first-time guest visiting us, you might be a little like confused, you're not sure. And so just understanding like that's part of my role too, is helping people with, okay, this is where you park, this is how you get to us, making sure people are ready when they come. And it's as seamless as it can be. I mean, there's still going to be some people that park in the wrong location, some people who get lost, but also reassuring them like, hey, I'm here to help you. If you're lost, what corner are you standing on? Like, let me try to help navigate you from where you are to get you over to the building. So yeah, it's different. I'll definitely say it's different every day. But definitely very rewarding. If you're someone who enjoys the flexibility of doing different things, working on different initiatives, and you're really strong in the relationship quadrant, when you think of Strength Finders, one of the things about my personality in this role is the relationship quadrant I'm very strong in. And so I feel like this is definitely a role, if you're strong in relationship building, I think you'll find it very rewarding.
Yeah, I think you need to have those relationships to get all those different things done and to be able to synchronize it all. So how is success evaluated for you? Like, yeah. What are your metrics, or how do they like say that Summer's doing a fantastic job aside from talking to you?
No, that's a good question. So we're actually going through our goals planning as we speak right now. And so we're actually writing our goals and looking at how to measure them. And just like other people do, we're also looking at them being SMART goals, right? So we're also looking at how do we measure the things that I do. And I will say my role is one of those roles when you think about like measuring stuff, there's a lot of gray in this area, right? It's like, how do you measure like, hey, the CEO unexpectedly was in the lobby and Summer handled that successfully? That's not like an everyday occurrence, right? And so part of it is also looking at what can we measure. So a solid example I'll give you is like when it comes to the facility itself. So we do get inspected, of course, because the life safety and stuff is part of my role. And so one of those things can be also looking at, we're going to get a satisfactory score on every inspection that we have. And those that actually have percentages or numbers, thinking about like, okay, I want our safety score to be 85% or above if there's a number being assigned. And so that's kind of some of the ways that I'm looking at how can I do that this year going forward, is like looking at what are the things we can measure and how can I influence that being in my role today to help our team be successful in those areas as well.
And then for the events, how much involvement is there, or how much pre-planning is there for these training events? And I'm guessing they're all for your current USAA employees, right?
Right. Most of our events are current USAA employees. We do participate also in some community stuff. So there's been some opportunities where we've collaborated and actually, like, for example, in South by Southwest, it's big here in Austin. We also would partner with one of the colleges, SCAD alumni, which does a lot of design. A lot of the college students that go through SCAD, they're all mostly design majors, I believe. And so we partner with them on their alumni mixer and have folks come in and do like a panel talk and some light appetizers. Mm-hmm. And those are some of the things that we do that are more community based. But day to day, most of our workshops are the employees internally. So the employees are really our customers as well. When you think about it, they're the ones that we're serving. And I personally look at my role as the designers are my customers. So when I think of like success for me, part of it is also like, how am I helping my customers, which are the designers?
Mm-hmm. How are you enabling them to do their job more effectively without having to worry about all the other different things? I love it.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people that want to work at USAA.
Yes. You do, Mike, you do. You and some of my other friends that I'll do some volunteer work with some other military-based nonprofits, and they definitely do.
So what would be your best advice for someone that wants to join the USAA team?
Yeah, so a couple things. So my best advice I would think of is, one, think about like what roles you're open to and looking to do, right? So when I think of even my own experience and journey, I started in the call center. I'm not saying everybody needs to start in the call center, but just think through like, what are the opportunities you're considering? Where would you like to be? Also consider that whatever role you're going to apply for, that you potentially may be in that role for 18 months, maybe longer than that. So I always like to encourage folks, like, consider that too. Like, don't take a role that you're like, oh, I was hoping to only do this for like 3 to 6 months. Well, that's not the average story for most people. You're not going to come in and do something for just 6 months and be promoted. I'm not saying that never happens, but most of the time you're not going to come in for just a couple of months and be promoted. The other thing I would say is really just get involved as far as like building your network, right? So if you're someone who's looking to come to USAA, I would say follow some of our hashtags, hashtag USAA Life, which is all just employees posting about life at USAA, hashtag USA Serves. That's all of like our volunteer and community events. Follow that, hashtag USA Jobs. That gives you opportunity to see what the recruiters are sharing or job opportunities that come up. And then if you have a virtual coffee chat with somebody at USAA, there's 2 things I would encourage you to do is, one, at the end of that coffee chat, ask them who else you should meet, right? Who else would they recommend you meet based on what you've shared with them, right? Especially if they're not even in a role or an area that you're considering, but they may have a warm introduction for somebody else for you. And then 2 is really looking at the employee resources groups. And so at USAA, we have an employee resource group called VetNet, which is pretty much our veterans that are now at USAA. We also have our military spouse VetNet as well. And so getting connected to someone in there, even if they're not a hiring manager or not currently in a department that's hiring, I just think building your network and getting to know some of those folks, they are like the biggest advocates of other veterans and military spouses coming on board. So I think just knowing things like that, like if you're not asking about the employee resources groups, ask about them and see if you can get a connection to somebody that's in one of those organizations as well. And then just being aware too with USA, if you're looking for remote positions, typically the remote is actually going to show last. And so most of our job postings, it'll show like San Antonio, Colorado, Tampa, Phoenix, which are all of our regional office locations. And then it'll say remote. So just be sure to look through and see if you're someone who's looking for remote work, make sure you're looking to see, is it available for remote? Because sometimes you might miss that if you're just looking and seeing it says San Antonio, but I'm like, did you look all the way down? It's actually one that you can do remote. So that's a big thing. And then, of course, we have an employee referral system like most companies do. I will say that the referral employees, the way it works with USAA is that the person who's referring you has to refer you before you apply for any USAA jobs. And so if you're already have applied for a USAA job, that person won't be able to refer you. That doesn't mean they still can't advocate for you or help you along the journey. But just know for the true employee referral, if you're thinking of asking someone, I would say wait and chat with them, see if they're willing to refer you, and then talk with them and then go through the process of what needs to happen for you to apply.
Yeah, I think that's a couple great points there. One is with the referrals, if you've already applied, a lot of companies just won't let you put them in the system because they're already in the talent system for referrals. And so then the requirement for a phone screen or somebody to look at the interview and give feedback isn't there anymore. So the person, like you said, they could still advocate. So if they're a true referral, like they know you and they want to go out of the way, well, they could go do an intro to a hiring manager or hand your resume to someone. But that is another level of support that you're asking for, and not something you typically get from just one phone conversation. Or
you're probably not going to get that from one phone conversation. If the person really knows you, they probably would be willing to do that. The other tip I would just share as well that I typically share when people ask me is when you see the job postings open externally, we as employees don't know who the hiring manager is either. And so one of the things that's a challenge is sometimes people will say, hey, Summer, I just applied for the risk analyst too. Do you know the hiring manager? And I'm just like, there are so many risk analysts too jobs, y'all. I don't know who the hiring manager is. So one tip I would give you is, instead of focusing so much trying to get to the hiring manager for that specific job posting, which can be very difficult unless that person really already knows who's hiring in the risk analyst area, is ask them for a warm introduction for somebody in risk, right? Like, go broader. So what I would tell you is, a lot of people come to me very specific, like, hey, Summer, I applied for this job. It's rec number 2784321. Can you help me? And it's like, I don't even know I don't even know how to help you with that, because those rec numbers don't match our internal rec numbers. Right. What I could do is help you if you take it up a notch. Hey, I'm trying to get into the bank underwriting area. Do you know anybody in bank underwriting? Like, so I would just encourage y'all to ask it at a higher level, so that people can try to help you that are willing to help.
I love that also, because I feel like we don't know what we don't know. And USAA is such a large organization. I didn't know you had the design center and this cool job that you have. Like, I didn't know it existed until I spoke with you. And I think there's a lot of people that may be missing incredible opportunities and careers because they just say, I want to do this, instead of having a conversation with a mentor at the company and saying, hey, these are the things I enjoy. What do you think? Like, do you think
Right.
and like somebody, you could be like, well, hey, we've got risk, but you may also want to go work in the call center and get this kind of experience because it'll open up these doors.
Exactly.
So I think that's another great point about, like you said, getting a connection in specific parts of the organization for those conversations before you apply.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. And then it's also knowing your skills that are transferable. Sometimes it's hard. I mean, folks, like you say, get very fixated on, hey, I want to do this one particular role. And it's like, in the veteran and military spouse community, I hear the PMP all the time. And I think it's great. No knocks on getting your PMP. I'll just tell you, there's a lot of us in this role that don't have our PMP, guys. So that's not going to be the golden ticket necessarily to getting a program or project manager role. So definitely an advocate for learning, definitely an advocate, continue to grow your skills. I just want you to know that that alone is not going to be the golden ticket. So you definitely need to network, find out what other jobs are related to what you're learning, what you're passionate about. There's so many different roles out there. So I say definitely ask questions and set up some coffee chats with people. If you haven't gone on a coffee chat recently and you're currently in your job search, I definitely would say that's going to be one of the key things, is really going on some of these coffee chats virtually and asking some questions. And most of the time, I'll tell you one other tip about these coffee chats is, if you ask most people, and it doesn't matter what level of the organization they're at, for 20 minutes on their calendar, I'll tell you most of the time they'll say yes. In the last year, when I've asked somebody for a virtual coffee chat, I'll tell you I've only had 2 people tell me no. And one of the people actually referred me to somebody else on their team. So it's like, hey, I can't do it, Summer, but here's so-and-so, go talk to them. They're actually doing the work that you're talking to me that you're interested in. And so that was still a win, y'all. So that's what you need to also consider, is like, it's still a win that I didn't get to meet with that person, but I met with somebody else and they referred me to that person. Like, they did a nice warm introduction and said, here's so-and-so, go talk to her. She, this is Summer. I want y'all to have a conversation. So I would just say, be mindful of that. Ask for a shorter amount of time, but you also be ready so that when you get on these 20-minute or 25-minute coffee chats, you're ready, fire, aim. Like, you need to really be kind of like ready to rock and roll. If you're long-winded,
hopefully ready in fire, not ready fire.
Yeah.
That would have been dangerous, but no, that's incredible. And I would add, you could benefit greatly from doing these coffee chats, even if you're not looking. I always say it's better to network when you don't need something than you are in a time of need, so that everyone's there for you. And I could see that as being something you do over the course of your, just based on personality. You're always talking to people. You're always watering the bridge.
Yeah, you definitely got to do that, Mike. I would say yes. Do it when you don't need it, so that when you do need it, you're ready, right? You can't wait till like today, like the job posting just came out, and so now I'm going to start looking for connections in that area or connections at that company. You really need to be doing that beforehand.
And so we've got Heidi says that this is on point. I knew Heidi was going to love this. I was going to send this for you to watch. I worked for Heidi DY. She's an awesome friend and mentor. We do have a question. So Dr. Stephen Horsley said, what type of internal mentoring and development program does USAA offer?
Great question. So when it comes to mentoring, there's a lot of what I would call informal mentoring programs happening at the moment. So one example would be through our diversity business group. So people call them employee resources groups. We call them diversity business groups. Tomato, tomato, they're the same thing. But I'm part of the African American diversity group at USA, which is called PEAK. And we did a mentoring program that was a 6-month program where if you were serving as the mentor, you were matched with somebody, a mentee who had similar interest in where you either are or things that you've done. And then over the course of 6 months, they kind of laid out, here's like a cadence of like meeting together, things that you can work on together. And then they had a culmination of the program at the end. And so there's various programs like that. I'll say there's also a lot of informal mentoring. So you finding someone in another department or another area or in a different team and just asking them like, hey, I'm looking to grow in X area. Love to have your support as I try to do that over the next 6 months or over the next year. What I will say about mentoring is it's always great if you have an area you're looking to grow in and you've identified it, right? So rather than just getting a mentor to have a mentor, get a mentor, but know like these are the top 1 to 2 things I'm trying to grow in, or this is the next role I'm aiming for. And here's the things I think I need to still kind of gain to get there. And then from as far as just in general, like development programs, USA also has an educational assistance program. So once you're an employee, you actually have access then to sign up for additional certifications or to work on your degree if you don't have your degree, or go back to college for an additional degree. So if you've got your bachelor's, the program can then pay for your master's. If you've got your master's, and there's some doctoral programs as well that you can go and explore. So there is opportunities to grow and learn and just continue to refine yourself really as an employee. So you just got to take advantage of it too. So I would say a lot of it is about getting out there yourself, looking into what's available, and then starting to leverage those programs as well.
I love it. I think that aligns with what Sid Goodfriend, he's a mentor of mine that is the founder of American Corporate Partners. What he said is that the mentor-mentee relationship is on the mentee. Like, you have to want it. You have to reach out. You have to ask for time. Don't expect the mentor to come down to you and say, hey, go do X, Y, Z. You've got to go seek. You have to seek the mentors. You have to ask for help. You have to put in the work to make it, worthwhile, so that you're learning something from it. It's just, I think you just fantastic points. So we are getting close, just like that. We are getting close to the 40-minute cap. I knew it was going to happen. Based on our initial conversation. Any last tips, any advice, anything you'd like to share?
I guess I would leave with the last tip, as we were just talking about mentorship and professional growth. The other thing that I think is really important is also to have a sponsor. And so for anybody that might be tuning in that doesn't really see the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, definitely encourage you to look at it. There's an awesome TED Talk out there about having a mentor versus a sponsor. And just keep in mind that your sponsor is really there. They already have a seat in the rooms where decisions are being made. And the key thing about your sponsor is what I like to say is you need to spoon feed your sponsor some of your success stories. And I know that sounds really like you're like, Summer, spoon feed them. And I'm like, yes, your sponsor needs to know some of your success stories. And it's got to be relevant, right? So if you have a sponsor, someone you consider your sponsor, they should always know like the high notes of where you're at, where you're trying to go. And so if they're in a room and there's like hey, we're creating this new position, they know like this is something she'd go for. She'd want to do this. This aligns to her next goals. So just be mindful of that. You really need someone out there that's going to be your sponsor, and you can go seasons in your career without a mentor. I'm a firm believer of it. I'm a personal proof that you can go some seasons without a mentor. But I'll tell you, really to move in your career, you definitely need a sponsor, and you definitely need to keep building those relationships. So be open to building relationships with anyone and everyone. I'll tell you, as executive assistants are powerful people. So if you treat people, everybody the same, I'll tell you, they'll tell you like, hey, somebody, you're bringing a new idea. Not right now. It's not a good time to meet with him. We need to move your meeting. Like his energy is not good at this hour. And that's the kind of stuff, y'all, that really makes a difference on whether your thing's going to get approved or not. You don't want to meet with them at 4:30 and he just, his whole calendar's been packed when she's like, hey, tomorrow I can get you in at 8:00. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be open to your idea. I feel he'd be more receptive. So treat everybody the same, and just know that you just never know who you'll need. So give them some kudos when you see them doing well.
I can't believe you just gave away the secret sauce. I mean, literally, same thing at EY. I was super nice to all the EAs. You know, if you needed time on someone's calendar, you wanted to get something through, you needed support getting something processed, always be nice. And they had the keys to the kingdom. Like, they actually ran so much of the organization. And I felt blessed that I was one of the few people that could get it done, because you always treat everyone with respect. And, you know, you build relationships, not because you need anything, just because, you know, people are people. And I think more people would benefit if they followed your advice. So, and the sponsorship piece was also huge for me at EY. Whenever you're in a big organization, you're right. You have to have someone that's in the room when decisions are being made. I never thought about it from the perspective of spoon feeding them, but when they truly are your sponsor and you're meeting with them, you usually talking about those things. But you're right. Being a little more proactive in doing that enables them to better advocate for you when the opportunities arise. So,
exactly.
Wow.
If you want to do something different, right? Maybe you're not trying to follow this traditional career path, and there's something different you're wanting to do. It's real important that your sponsor is aware of that, right? So when that different opportunity comes up, they know that's where you'd like to go, and it's maybe not be the same path that's right in front of you. You got to know that you're interested in that different path or that different opportunity when it comes.
Wow. Well, I learned so much today, Summer. Thank you so much for starting off my week fantastically. This has been one of my favorite LinkedIn Lives that I've done in a long time. So I really appreciate you spending your time with us. And I hope that everything is kind of recovered in the Austin area from all the weather and everything.
Yep, we're still recovering, but it's definitely, we got some weeks ahead of us of different people that have needs still across our city. But definitely love to see the power of Texans coming together and just helping people. Like, that's been like the real gem of the stories that have come out of after the winter weather. So thanks for having me, Mike. Thanks for everybody that's in the comments. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I could share a little bit with y'all today.
Yep. Thank you. So have a great day.
Bye.